Welcome back to Indie Author Blueprint. I'm Michelle Rayburn, your host, and today we're diving into a topic that stirs up some mixed feelings in the writing and publishing world: AI in book marketing. For some authors, it's a hard no. For others, it's a helpful assistant that saves time and boosts visibility. The good news? This is a personal decision. My goal today isn't to convince you to use AI, but to show you where it fits into the post-publishing process. And I'll show you how it can support your marketing efforts if you choose to use it. Think of it as an extra tool in your toolbox, not a threat to your creative voice. So let's explore what's possible without pressure. I've covered a lot of indie publishing basics over the last 4 months. And now that we've covered the technical stuff, at least the basics of it, we'll come back to a lot of those topics in the future. But I'm looking forward to diving into some topics and conversations that involve both facts and opinions. Some of the things I've shared are facts just about like what exists on KDP or what kind of file requirements they have. And then I've shared some opinions about ways I do things and what I would suggest other people do. But I want to go into even more of that because I want to look at all those decisions that we have to make as an indie publisher. And let's face it, a lot of the advice you'll get from any writing or publishing coach contains a certain amount of personal preference in it. For example, mention anything related to AI and it draws strong opinions from readers, strong opinions from writers, strong opinions from publicists, publishers, all the people involved. From the purists who will not use AI for any part of the process, including brainstorming or polishing, that's one end of the spectrum, to the other end, of course, the opposite, writing subpar books using only AI. I will never advocate for that when it comes to writing books, but I'm also not a purist. That means I don't avoid AI for all parts of the process. There are some good reasons for why authors and publishers are purists, and I respect that. If you publish with KDP, you'll be asked if you used AI for the process, and you'll have to list what you used it for. That's important. I'm glad that publishing platforms are beginning to at least survey authors to learn more about how they're using AI. Is everyone honest? I'm sure not, but this is a good start. So just know that if you're using AI for any part of the process, including generating images for your cover or anything like that, you're going to have to answer that question when you publish the book. So that's a great step because we want full transparency here. We're not here to talk much about the writing process. We're really talking about the publishing process. But just be aware that if you used AI for significant parts of your book, like let's say you wrote really, really rough draft, like maybe you're not a professional writer and you haven't taken writing classes, but you want to publish something. And so you write something really rough and then you use AI to drastically modify it. You want to just put something on the copyright page that says, I used AI after formulating my ideas. I used artificial intelligence to put them into a book format, or I don't even know what the legal terminology is, but you do need to have something there that helps your reader to know, especially if somebody picks up your book later and wants to hire you to write something else. You want to be fully transparent saying, well, I'm an idea generator, but I'm not a professional writer. Okay, so we won't go far into the weeds on that, but let's imagine you wrote your book without any AI assistance. But did you? There are some tools that have been around for quite a while, and they rely on artificial intelligence. So just be aware that if you're saying, I wrote my book without any assistance, you probably did. These are the ones, though, that we don't disclose when we're publishing a book. We don't go on KDP and say, I used AI for my grammar check. We just don't. And that's something it's a given. We're going to use spell check. Microsoft spell check's been around for a long time. Grammarly's been around now for quite a while. These use AI-powered natural language processing to detect errors in spelling and grammar, punctuation, and even style now. You're getting more and more feedback from those than they're not just punctuation checkers and grammar checkers and typo checkers. Now they're giving you suggestions on how to reword some things. So these are simple utilities, but they're built on AI models that are trained to understand language patterns. So just be aware that we all use AI in some way, but there's a distinction between using it to write your content versus it being a tool to help you edit it. There are some other AI tools you might use that you're not aware that they really do use artificial intelligence, speech to text tools. I know some people who like to dictate their content and speak it, and then an artificial intelligence tool will turn it into written text. You can speak it and record it, and an AI tool built into Microsoft Word Online will transcribe it into text so that you can edit it. So that's one. Search engine algorithms. When writers use search, like Google search, to research topics, they're now interacting with AI algorithms to predict and rank the most relevant content. And now what you're seeing is it's built into search engines. The top content you're seeing is actually an artificial intelligence summary that is grabbing everything from the web and giving you an answer. Sometimes it has some links alongside of where it got that. But just be aware that more and more, even in our simple research processes, we are using artificial intelligence. We've been using it for a long time with thesauruses, looking for synonyms, rephrasing, tone adjustments. I remember when Grammarly was first built into like even Facebook posts, it was telling me what my tone was. And there are other examples like Hemingway Editor and Pro Writing Aid that do this kind of thing. There are also some auto captioning and subtitling tools, maybe for YouTube, where it's transcribing it and synchronizing it to the video. It's actually using an artificial intelligence to do that because it's falling right on the spot where it's hearing the person say those words. Okay, so I'm saying all of those things just to say that the true objection that many writers have isn't about these tools, because these are, again, ones that I said I don't disclose when I'm publishing on KDP because they're just part of the natural process we do. What it is that the objection arises from is the generative artificial intelligence. It's generating text. And so it's starting from scratch and writing the content completely, using other people's ideas and words. And so that is, if I get down to the core of the true objection. So now the question is there ever a time when generative AI can be helpful in the publishing process? Because we're not using generative AI to write the content of our books. If I edit a book, I can tell which sections have been generated, if they are, by AI. I can just tell because of how repetitive it is with the descriptors it uses. So we're not writing books. If you're writing books using AI, you're probably not writing a book that a reader is going to want to get book 2 on. So back to the publishing process then. Can generative AI be used? I'm going to stand on a big yes, and I want to explain. I want to tell you how I've used AI in the aspects that come after the writing and the editing. And remember, this is still my opinion. So if you strongly believe in avoiding AI, even in the marketing process, that is your choice. But there are several pieces that as a writer and publisher, we have to complete that are often written by someone else on the team. When you go to a traditional publisher, you have somebody else helping write the back cover copy, the book description that goes on the online book sales, like goes in the catalogs and all those places, goes on Amazon. They are writing the sell sheet, the press release. And more often, the marketing team at the publishing house is creating those pieces for you. Most authors don't have a marketing degree and they don't have a team. I don't have a team. I'm a one-woman show. So I use AI as my assistant with the marketing tasks. So let's talk about one. I've talked about this in other episodes, so I won't get super specific on content, but back cover copy is one place where artificial intelligence is helpful. I write a draft. I list some basic points. Now, I write nonfiction, so if you're writing fiction, you would write a basic draft telling some things about the story. I write a draft about the content that's in my nonfiction book. I just give also along with it a list of some random things I cover in the book in case I would want to put those in the blurb. And then I tell AI, I use ChatGPT for this kind of thing. I put in my draft, my really rough draft of the book back cover copy. And then along with that, I tell it who the book is for, like my target reader. I tell a little bit more about the content the book covers. And then I ask artificial intelligence to make my back cover blurb more compelling based on the info I gave it and what readers will be looking for. I ask it to be in the third person because we don't want to write it in the first person like I'm saying it. We're really writing it like an advertisement for the book. And then I want it to be compelling, so I tell it I want this to be something that makes the reader want to grab it off the shelf. And I might even ask it to incorporate some specific keywords if I want those in the description. Now, I take that draft and I edit it a lot more. It's not done when artificial intelligence finishes. I'm going to take that draft that it came up with and I'm going to work on it to make sure it sounds like me. I'm going to see how close it is to the draft I originally wrote. If I get something that's spit out that's completely different, I actually go back sometimes to AI and say, no, keep it a lot closer to my first draft. I just want a little polishing. And it will give you the amount of polishing you want. So let's say I want to keep the blurb I've written, but I really want like a banner headline to be on the cover of the book above that blurb. I will ask it to give me a suggestion for one based on the blurb I wrote. So I can ask it for as little or as much change as I want. I also sometimes use it only because I really get stuck on a phrase or a section where I think this part is just dull and I need, this one line zipped up a little bit. So I'll put that in there, not the whole book description. So it's as much or as little help as I need on something. Now, if I want something different on Amazon for the book description from the back blurb that I wrote, I finish the blurb, I put it back in, and I say, take this book blurb and now modify it so that it fits best for selling books on Amazon. And so it will modify it a little bit. So now that I have that blurb set, there are some other pieces that I can polish with AI so that I'm ready for marketing. The other one is my bio. I write my author bio in a long form. I write it all out the way I want it to be, but then I have AI help me polish it. Now, when it's polishing, there are times it cuts out. Like if I list some book titles I've published, it might take those out. So again, I often have to go back and just tell it, leave it more original. I only want a little bit of polishing on here. This is the longer bio that I will use in the back of the book on that about the author page. So the thing is, for the back cover of the book, I want something really short, like 30 words, 50 words, whatever I want there with my picture. I want it fairly short because they can open the back cover and inside they can read the longer one. So once I have finished my longer bio, I put that into AI again, and I ask it to help me write a 50-word version of it based on the long version. And I tell it this will go on the back cover of my book because it will know based on the content. If I've given it, I might give it the blurb and I might give it that full bio so it knows a little bit about the book. And then I'll say, based on this content, help me write a 50-word author bio for the back of my book. Now, I've given it some topics because of that blurb, and then it knows that it should focus on certain aspects of my bio. For example, if I'm writing a book for parents, it's going to focus on my parenting part of my bio. If I'm writing a book about mental health or self-help, it might focus on the counseling portion of my master's degree. So all of that is important to have it know so you can create that bio that's very specifically written. And again, you modify it, you edit, you make it yourself. Okay, so once you have the book description and your bio, now you can use both of these to simulate some other things. So we have the book blurb. It might be longer than what you're going to fit on your book. It might be the Amazon description. Maybe that's longer, but just take whatever content you have, that description and that long bio. And now you can simulate some things. For example, let's say you need some sample questions or talking points to give to podcasters for interviews. You already know some of the things that, you might want to pull out of the book, but rather than things that say things like, on page 25, you talk about blah, blah, blah. Go ahead and just have it based on that blurb, and your bio create some sample talking points that you could give to podcasters or sample questions. Or if you're just prepping for an interview, use it to generate some random questions based on that to see how you do answering them yourself at home. So you can use it for prepping for media. You can use it for preparing those marketing materials that you need to have when you're marketing the book. Let's look at some other ways that you can use artificial intelligence just in this marketing process. You could take the blurb and your bio and put that into artificial intelligence and ask it to help you brainstorm some ideas for a lead magnet you could create for followers. Now, when you're brainstorming ideas, you're asking it to just give you some suggestions. You're not asking it to write those, although there are times that you could have it help you write content for a lead magnet, but you're just asking for some ideas for what kinds of things somebody would want. And it will give you some ideas, and then you can take it and create from there. You can write a draft. You could use, pull points out of your book and help, create some content, whatever it is that you're doing. If there's like a 10-tip list that's inside of the book, maybe you want to take that out, put it into AI and say, this is inside my book. What can I do to create a lead magnet from this content in my own book that I could distribute to my followers? So you're using it for idea generating when it comes to marketing. You could ask it to write an announcement about the book's release to share on social media. So then again, the blurb would be very important, and your bio. And then you can tweak it to length and then edit and modify from there. You could create a list of reader engagement questions. I've done this when I'm marketing a book, just some different things I could share on social media. And so I kind of trickle those out into, I might generate a list of 10 questions and then I put those out into social media over time. Just some ideas for ways that I can help people engage with the content. You could ask for a list of calls to action that encourage someone to buy your book without saying, buy my book. So literally put in something like ChatGPT, I'm releasing a book and I want to put up a bunch of posts, but I don't want every call to action to say, buy my book. What are some other things I can say? And it'll give you a list of some ideas, and you just save that list for things you can use when you're making social media posts. You could generate the script for a short trailer video. So you might put your blurb in your bio and then ask it to help you generate a really short script of something you can say on camera that you would record and put out like on YouTube or somewhere else that would be an introduction to your book. So it's a social media post essentially, but you're having it help you with the script. You could brainstorm ideas for reader challenges, giveaways, discussion prompts, things I've been saying here, but just say, what kind of reader challenge could I do related to this book? This is the title, this is the blurb. What kind of giveaway what things could I include in a giveaway? There are some things I've come up with, but if I'm stuck, then, I need some help. One of the ones I came up with on my own without AI was, last year I had a compilation book for dog and cat lovers. And as a gift giving idea, one of the things I love are these little warmies. They're little stuffed animals you put in the microwave, and they're like a heat pack that smells like lavender. And I love it when I'm really cold. I warm up my little puppy in the microwave. And so it makes a perfect gift to give a little warmie with a book for a dog and cat lover in like a gift basket or something like that. So you might be really stumped for some ideas, and you could ask it, I'm making a gift basket with this book. What are some things that I could put into the gift basket? And then take pictures of that for, sales ideas for buyers to look at, like how could they use that as a gift? One of the things I've done before is have it help me analyze my tone in what I've written. I write my post and then I ask if it sounds friendly or if it sounds low pressure. And then if it doesn't, I ask it to help me write it in a way that it sounds more like that. If I want to convey urgency without sounding like a gimmicky salesperson, I ask, does this convey urgency without sounding gimmicky? I'm using it as my assistant to bounce the ideas off, even if I've generated those myself. And so that's why it's helpful for me. It's like having an assistant who I can ask, what do you think of this? And then I get that feedback. If you're about to launch a book and you haven't tried AI as your marketing assistant, I encourage you to try it out. And then after you do that, leave a comment on Indie Author Blueprint on Substack and let me know how you're using AI. So if you've already tried it out, pop in there and let me know how you're using AI for your book marketing. At the end of the day, AI is just a tool. It doesn't replace your creativity, your story, or your connection with readers. So whether you decide to use AI for marketing tasks or stick to traditional methods, the choice is entirely yours. My hope is that today's episode gave you some no-hype looks at how AI can help you with the busy work of book promotion while also keeping your unique voice in the heart of it all. So I want to thank you for listening, and as always, you do what feels right for you and your readers because this is your publishing company, and as an indie author, you're the boss. So have a great day. I will see you again next week with another episode.